93.7. It's good to be back here again. I am Jimmy GMO, and today on Spotlight, we're looking at the impact of GMOs on small scale farmers and local food system. Generally, GMOs are safety concerns. All right, food safety experts, scientists, and farmers have once again called for a total ban on genetically modified organisms, that's GMOs, in the country, highlighting its negative impacts on the human system and long term effects on the nation's food sovereignty and security. And to add to that, no fewer than 92 African civil society organizations, that CSOs, have urged the House of Representatives to prohibit use and consumption of GMOs in the country to protect the environment and health of Nigerians. They are saying that the campaign against GMOs is particularly against genetic modification of food crops and animals and all that can alter ecosystem balance and negatively impact agriculture. So now the introduction of this GMOs dates back to the early 2000s. That's in Nigeria, and the government has continued to promote its adoption as a means of improving agricultural productivity and reducing poverty. So we're going to talk about the safety concerns and impact on local food system with our guest this morning, Dr. Shegun.
Okay, GMO is an acronym for genetically modified organisms, which could be crops or animals. And GMOs, when we say genetically modified, it simply means that genes from another organism are taken with desired traits and implanted into a different organism, a different species. For instance, in the case of genetically modified maize, genes from a bacteria, Bacillus thuringiensis, are taken and planted inside your corn. So you're taking a gene from a different organism and planting it in another organism. So in this case, a gene was taken from a bacteria and put in a corn. And you can actually, if you want a human being to grow horns, you can take the gene from a bull that grows horns and put it in a human being and it will grow horn. This example I just gave was used by one of the biotechnology quote-unquote experts at the 7th annual biosafety conference in Nigeria. He used this very example I used. And that already explains the ethical concerns of GMOs. How ethical is it? That means that I can actually take the genes that produce maybe venom in a snake and put it in a tomato and then export it to a country. And what have I done? I've sent weapons to them in form of their food. And this is why countries like Russia have proscribed gene editing and GMO cultivation as acts of terrorism. So these are some of the concerns. I think in defining it, I spilled a little into the concerns. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So who are the people pushing for the GMOs? And when you say exported to the country, is it okay? It's not adopted all over the world yet. And who are the pioneers of GMOs?
Okay, so yes, GMOs are not adopted all over the world. There are many countries around the world who do not. There are many countries that have GMO banned. There are many countries that have. The adoption of GMO comes in two forms. There is the importation and there is the cultivation. So there are some countries that have allowed importation, but they have banned cultivation. Countries like Angola have banned both the importation and the cultivation. The minister says that the reason they did that is because they don't know the impact of these things on human health and the environment. Countries like Algeria have banned both. Austria has allowed the importation and banned the cultivation, citing that the risk assessment by the European Union is not sufficient to guarantee the safety. That's the EFSA risk assessment. As the European Food Safety Authority's risk assessment, which is for just 2 years. And it will surprise us or to interest us to know that that same risk assessment procedure is what was used in Nigeria for the risk assessment for our GMOs, allowed it for. And you
Okay.
see, Australia has allowed the importation and banned the cultivation in some places. So
Mm.
this is it. It's not
Okay.
just the one size fits all.
Yeah.
Just last month, South Africa reversed their approval of MON 87460. MON 87460 is the code name for Teller maize in Nigeria. Teller maize is Mon 18 for GMOs. The name Mon 87460, the Mon there is not Monday. The Mon there means Monsanto. And Monsanto is a biotech organization that has been since since the 70s. It's been on. But they were recently in 2016. They were bought by Bayer. Now Bayer is an organization that has existed since 1863. They started as a dye company, but later morphed into a full chemical company, and they participated in both the World War I in manufacturing weapons and World War II, and they played major roles in the Holocaust, the gas chambers, producing chemicals used for weapons, and the atomic bomb in the World War II. And after the World War II, they morphed, and now you see them in the pharmaceutical industry, in the agrochemical industry, in the vaccine industry also, because Merck, producers of Gardasil HPV vaccines, are a subsidiary of Bayer. Now, um, when you begin to look at the character of these organizations,
Yeah.
you begin to understand why activists and advocates like myself and others around the world
Are
are
pushing against.
concerned
All right.
that our concerns on ethics would fall on deaf ears,
Okay.
because these are organizations that have been participating in wars. Monsanto has been fined in many countries for ethical concerns in their mode of doing business. They are known for bribing government officials to overlook risk assessment. They are known, it's the reports are all over the internet. Indonesia, they bribed a government official $50,000 and they were fined $1.5 million for trying to breach protocol and allow the approval of dangerous toxic chemicals, hazardous chemicals in Indonesia. And that is the same for many other countries around the world.
Okay.
Thank you.
So what exactly is the selling point for the GMO? Like, what's the selling point of the GMO? What I mean is, I've heard something before about the GMOs enabling foods to grow much more than it should. We hear that.
Yeah. Okay, so you're asking for what are the pros? The promoters of GMO, why are they even advocating for it? Okay, it's very easy. They say GMOs will lead to, for instance, they say they lead to drought tolerant and pest resistant crops. So let's look at the logic of it. They can edit the genome of a crop to withstand drought, and they say it's favorable as a form of climate action.
What is it currently in the Nigerian markets? Has it been implemented? Because now we hear that in some states in the north, it's already been adopted. So how do you even know GMO foods and organic foods? How do you identify them?
A phytoanalysis, that's by what you can see. You will not be able to distinguish between a GMO food, that's crops, and organic crops. Yes, they are already in the Nigerian market. Popularly, there are three cultivated GMO crops in Nigeria, popularly, because there are others, like we found out at the public hearing, which just held 2 days ago in Nigeria at the National Assembly. There is the BT cotton, It's been released since I think 2017 or 18. That's genetically modified cotton. There is the PBR cowpea beans, genetically modified beans. The current variant that is out in Nigeria is white in color with a black patch on it.
Okay.
So, but of course, it looks just like a regular white beans.
Okay.
And then thirdly, there is the teller maize, which was commercialized in January this year and deregulated for widespread use in June this year. So there are three at the moment, and you will not be able to distinguish between them and the original ones by phytoanalysis.
Okay. So, what are the concerns about the potential health impacts of GMOs? Like, have you seen any evidence of adverse health effects on people that have consumed GMOs?
Absolutely, absolutely. The evidence is in Nigerian parlance, like they would say in pidgin, they say ichuk. There's a lot of
Okay.
evidence that GMOs are very detrimental to human health. Not just also GMOs, but also if GMOs introduce a new farming system where you are mandated to use their chemicals. So Monsanto produces that Bayer. They have a chemical, a herbicide, a pesticide that goes mandatorily with the GM crops, with their GM seeds called Roundup. Now, Roundup, the active ingredient in Roundup is called glyphosate. And glyphosate has been labeled as a carcinogenic material. And yes, I would use court cases to respond to your question. In the United States, over 200,000 people have received compensation from Bayer
Hmm.
of over $12 billion for
Okay.
using Roundup and having cancer.
Hmm. So,
Over 200,000. The reports are on the internet, very reputable sources.
hmm.
Over 200,000 people in the United States alone.
Okay.
Because glyphosate is known to be carcinogenic, and also the GM crops are known to cause cancer. Professor Seralini um, conducted a research, fed GMO maize to rats for a prolonged period of time, and they developed cancerous tumors.
Hmm.
At the same time, he fed non-GMO maize to rats, and they did not develop the cancerous tumor. So GMO has been linked to cancer several
Okay.
times. We're also seeing GMO linked to human fertility, such that a report came by Epicite, um, a pharmaceutical firm, as far back as the year 2000, that GMOs seem to become the source for organic contraceptive. In other words, maize, genetically modified corn, can actually stop a man from being fertile and also make the woman's womb, make her body reject, act as instead of receiving the sperm, it kills the sperm. So there are researches to prove these things are happening. We
Uh-huh.
recently stumbled upon a research that shows that because glyphosate is also an endocrine disruptor. They mess
Okay.
up your body and your body's endocrine system. And what's supposed to happen at a certain time happens at the wrong time. For instance, we found very recently that GMO and glyphosate are responsible for miscarriages. And a certain professor in the Purdue University, came about that research, and he proved it that GMOs led to the early termination of pregnancies in people and
Okay.
many other health risks associated with GMOs. And this is part of why we are calling on
Yeah. Yeah.
the Nigerian.
So we
So thank you.
Okay. So there are also some talks around GMO reducing lifespan and the move to this is word on the street right now, Dr. Shego, that the GMOs is put in place to wipe out the black population. How realistic is that? Is that a long term effect?
Absolutely, because you can target a race, you can target you can target a certain people with certain genetic constituents. You can actually target them with food, such that you can, for instance, um, you can target the blacks.
Mm.
You can edit the food, like we said earlier, edit it, put something that would target them alone inside this food. And that's why it's prescribed as terrorism in Russia. Yes, it's a viable tool for population control. It makes people sterile. So your people are unable. Now you see, with the rise of GMOs and these chemicals, these pesticides in our society, when we were growing up, our ladies were told, if you go near a man, you have the chances of getting pregnant. You know, you see
Mm.
people for the first time ever, they are pregnant. Today, we have fertility clinics all over the place because most of these cereals that we take in the morning, you know, flakes and Mons and all that, are
Mm-hmm.
produced with materials from genetically
Most.
produced are produced genetically modified materials.
Mm.
You know, not just directly. Many of our companies are importing. Many companies are importing GMOs. You know, so yes, they reduce the population. They reduce the population of the world because I mean, almost every man from age 40 has tendencies right now of having prostate cancer in Africa.
Mm.
And these are things that come from accumulated consumption of GMO crops and glyphosate. So yes, the concerns are valid. Human lifespan reducing, and it will also interest us that the investors, the investors in GMOs are also the investors in big pharma. So this is a business such
What's
that
Big Pharma?
big pharma, pharmaceutical firms, the biggest
Okay.
pharmaceutical firms, the
Okay.
producers of insulin and producers of vaccines and many other sicknesses that manage the high-end non-communicable diseases. Yeah, hypertensions and co. So these are the big pharmas. I don't want to mention the brands here,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
the same investors in GMO are the investors in big pharma. So they need to create demand for their business. If
Mm.
people are not falling sick, if people are eating organic food and they're not falling sick, big pharma goes out of business.
Okay. So it's profit driven. Hello, Dr. Shagun.
Yeah.
So you're saying that it's profit driven.
Oh, yes, it's profit driven. Now, there's even another angle to it. Look at the economics of the genetically modified seeds. Who owns the patent? Because these seeds are sterile. If you plant a GM, if you plant them, they're not regenerative. So when you're done with that, when you finally you plant the GM
Y-
seeds, it produces the crops, you harvest. You can't save your harvest and replant it. You have to go back to the seed companies to buy seeds at the next farming season. Let me give you the instance of the cotton farmers in Nigeria. They released a report in Business Day, 23rd of September, if I'm correct, and they complained. And
okay.
based on that report, I reached out to the president of the Cotton Farmers Association of Nigeria, and he said yes, that when they first brought the genetically modified cotton to them, the seeds, they were buying them at 15,000 naira per kg, and they need 4 kg to plant on a hectare.
Mm.
Right now, the seeds are 55,000 naira per kg, and the prices have gone really up. And you need 222,000 naira of seeds, only seeds. We've not started talking about the chemicals. Only seeds,
Okay.
222,000 naira to
Okay.
plant on a hectare. Which smallholder farmer can afford it? And the interesting thing is this: they reported in the article that after planting GMO for 4 years, they found out that their grounds are now barren. Their lands are now barren. Why? Because the chemicals have killed the nematodes, killed the insects, killed all the microbes in the ground. So the soil are now dead. So you need to buy the fertilizer,
The seed.
buy the fertilizer from the same seed company, buy the agrochemicals from the same seed company, and buy the seeds from the same seed company before you can farm. So what's happening here? Food capitalism. high cost of farming, unlike the regenerative agriculture given to us by God, where farmers plant their organic seeds and then from the harvest, they can replant, save some, and replant for the next farming season. So you're looking at food capitalism. And you see, there is a law, it's the Plant Variety Act of 2021, which has already been set to protect seed breeders and seed companies against the farmers. So in that law, you cannot actually process genetically modified yields without the approval of the seeds to other farmers. These are active laws in this country, currently not being enforced. Because at the end of the day, if GMO rises, if the use of GMOs increase in Nigeria and erodes our natural seeds, at a point where Nigeria becomes fully dependent on GMOs, if those laws are in effect, our farmers begin to go to jail for 10 years for sharing seeds amongst themselves without buying seeds from Monsanto. And Monsanto have cases around the world where they sued farmers who planted without buying seeds from them.
Wow.
These are active cases in Brazil. The farmers in Brazil lost over 7.7 billion to Monsanto from similar lawsuits. We can look it up. We can share the data with you after the call.
Okay, so where does Bill Gates come in all of this? Because I've been hearing his name side by side, GMOs.
What?
I said, where does Bill Gates come in all of this? I've been hearing his name whenever GMOs come up.
So Bill Gates is the number one investor of GMOs in Nigeria. Just hold on a second. Let me see if I can pull up some records for you. Bill Gates is the number one investor of GMO in Africa. Now there is an organization, the AATF, and AATF is an organization from Bill Gates. He's the number one founder of AATF, and AATF have spinned off another organization called OFAB, and OFAB is called the Open Forum for Agricultural Biotechnologies. AATF means African Agricultural Technology Foundation.
Okay, it's like you have
and Bill Gates funds these organizations heavily. I mean, you're looking at, so far, from the fundings I have tracked, he has funded AATF over, over $351 million to AATF for, $175.6 million. And if you look at the reason for all the fundings, you will see, for instance, to strengthen the Nigerian seed system for the multiplication and deployment of pod borer resistant cowpea seeds. That was in 2022, October, $2.5 million. I can just keep on. $4.8 million going to address the systemic failures in foundation seed available that limits seed farmers the ability to reach scale and farmer access to newer, better and performing climate resilient seeds. I can continue reading is $18.2 million to enhance knowledge sharing and awareness on agricultural biotechnology. Now, what you just said, what I just read there is PR. $18.2 million for PR for biotechnology.
Okay.
So these are Bill Gates funding for GMOs across Africa. I can continue. There's a lot.
Yeah.
All
right. Yeah. Now, if you're listening to us, you have contributions or questions, you can call 0805-092-0927. That's 0805-092-0927. Or you can call 0705-890-4927. That's 0705-890-4927. We're looking at GMOs in the country as it is. Food safety experts are calling for its ban. We're also looking at the impact of GMOs on small-scale farmers and local food system. So now, back to you, Dr. Segun. How does GMOs affect? How do GMOs affect the vulnerable populations, children or the elderly?
Yeah. First of all, GMOs affect them directly and indirectly from the nutrition. The foods they're not as nutritious has the organic ones. So you're already looking at nutrition deficiency, which is already creating another business. It's already opening up another business, another market
Yeah.
for some of the things that Bill Gates came into Nigeria for, which is called food fortification. So they are looking at the highly deficient food being caused by GMOs and offering additional technology to fortify this food, you know. So it's affecting directly through nutrition deficiency. It's affecting them also, of course, uh, 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 um, um, through poverty. Because from what we are seeing, many farmers, especially the smallholder farmers, are at risk. They are at risk for at the deployment of GMOs. In fact, in India, it was stated that smallholder farmers should not engage in farming GMOs because at the end of the day, it will lead to their impoverishment. And you see, many of them didn't heed to it. And of course, if you search on the internet, Indian farmers' suicide, you'll see that it was caused by GMOs. And of course, when the parents begin to die, the children are left orphaned. So GMOs are not, they have very little benefit to the
Okay.
children, to the vulnerable population. Yeah.
All right. So now the government has adopted it, and I think there are some regulatory frameworks in place. What are your thoughts on the current regulatory framework for GMOs, and do you think it's sufficient enough to protect the health of Nigerians?
Currently, the regulatory framework have been, they're not, they're currently insufficient.
Okay.
First of all, we were at the National Assembly 2 days ago for an investigative hearing on GMOs, and these regulatory bodies were called forward to come and explain exactly what they have been doing and how they have allowed GMOs into Nigeria. And NAFDAC was absent at the investigative hearing for obvious reasons because the NAFDAC DG has said, and I quote, that GMOs are pesticides and they do not agree with the deployment of GMOs because they are unsafe for human consumption. The NAFDAC DG said that, and it's on record, that GMOs are unsafe for human consumption. And that directly clashes with another government agency called the National Biosafety Management Agency, NBMA. NBMA's responsibility is to serve as the regulators of biotechnology and in Nigeria to determine that the GMO crops are safe. That is NBMA's responsibility. But
Okay.
unfortunately, there is another organization called the National Biotechnology Research and Development Agency, NABDA. NABDA is a promoter of biotechnology, and unfortunately, they are sitting on NBMA's board. So, how does the promoters of biotechnology sit on the board of the regulators of biotechnology? How is that even possible? These are the obvious lacunas, lapses in our framework, in our regulatory framework in Nigeria. Then we have the FCCPC, the Federal Competition Consumer Protection Commission, who are just like outside the window. They're outside the building, just
Mm-hmm.
looking and they are clueless currently and currently inactive in protecting the consumers because labeling laws, Nigeria has strong labeling laws, and GMOs are supposed to be labeled according to the NBMA Act of 2015, but currently they are not. So the Nigerian population is unprotected by the lack of enforcement of our labeling laws, which are mandatory for the deployment of GMOs. So these organizations were called to question at the investigative hearing, and of course, the the videos are out on the internet. I wouldn't want to express how embarrassing they embarrass themselves. And but a very notable thing which I must mention at the public hearing
Yeah.
was someone from the All Farmers Association of Nigeria who said that it is better we eat GMOs and die
Mm-mm.
than stay hungry and die. He said Nigerians should eat GMOs, eat it and die.
Then stay hungry and die.
This is a country that, like, anywhere in our country is arable. A highly agricultural country. 80% of our land mass can survive, is arable.
Okay.
How is it possible that a farmer would say it? And of course, it's created quite a huge uproar at the public hearing.
Mm.
And I dare to commend the National Assembly, first of all, for putting together that investigative hearing. It was well attended. The hearing venue was full to the brim. We had up to 50 lawmakers present. And I dare to say that all the lawmakers present were against GMOs. They said it, they expressed it vehemently, opposed it, and we're looking forward to a total ban. There were over
GMOs.
92 CSOs there. I was there. I was present.
Okay.
And we who called for a moratorium, immediate moratorium on the deployment of GMOs. I mean, and I would recommend that Nigeria toes the line of Ecuador, who burnt all the GMO farms. When they found out what it was, they burnt everything, destroyed it, and banned it in their country. And I would recommend that action for Nigeria.
All right.
And immediately, I would also recommend that these countries, these organizations are fined.
Yeah. So now the thing is, as much as the lawmakers are kicking against the adoption of GMO, the government is saddled with the responsibility to boost agricultural productivity and reduce poverty. So what would be the alternative now if GMO is not adopted?
Easy, very easy. Let us toe the line of Tanzania. Tanzania has achieved food sufficiency at 124%. That means they are overproducing and currently are exporting to other African countries. I mean, they are producing in their country, not importing, producing. And GMOs are banned in Tanzania, both importation and cultivation. GMOs are banned in Tanzania. So the question is this: how does even GMOs boost food security? GMOs actually cause food insecurity. They don't boost it, And I would explain. When you have to buy seeds every year or every planting season from the seed merchants, you are not practicing regenerative agriculture. You are dependent. If the seed farmers say they have only 500 kg of seeds for the whole country to share, like right now, only 1 ton of teller maize, of GMO maize, is available. So if that is all that we need, that means every other person goes hungry. And then the laws of demand and supply. Demand goes up. When supply goes up, when supply goes down, demand goes up. Just like we see in fuel. What has that led to? Food insecurity. In other words, we have outsourced our food systems to the seed merchants, like in South Africa. So how do we boost our production? Number one, stop post-harvest losses. There are reports that over 40% of our farming and our yield are destroyed on the farms due to post-harvest losses. The farmers are not able to get transport to transport their produce from the farms to the markets. The roads are bad. Many times the yields spoil in motion. Go to Benue, drive by the road, you will see baskets of oranges spoiling. You will see baskets of tomatoes spoiling. Post-harvest losses, and Tanzania said that immediately they stopped their post-harvest losses, focused on proper agroecological practices, which are regenerative agriculture. It boosted their food production, and that's what we recommend for Nigeria also. So don't look into GMOs. GMOs are going to cause more problems than they're going to solve. Focus on age-long agriculture, the very one that God gave to us. How did we get to this point?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so this is what we advocate for. Thank you.
So now the reality we have now is Nigeria is heavily reliant on aid, and I understand that the World Bank, the WHO, and USAID are really pioneering. They're pushing for the GMOs adoption in countries. So how can the country go around this, given that you're heavily reliant on aid and this is sold to us? Would there be a way that you would, recommend to the government to go about this?
It's very simple. Who told us that we needed the AIDS in the first place? And also again, many times when we are told that we need the AIDS, these aids are brought to us. Hardly do we actually need these aids. We are told we need the aids. And again, who funds World Health Organization? Bill Gates. He's the number one funder. Who funds all these other people? Same guy. So, you're looking at him using these organizations as his marketing arm. Anyways, how can the Nigerian government go around it? It's very simple. Focus on farm security. Let our farms be secure. Our farmers know what to do already. We have the seeds already. Focus on our seed storage. Focus on our seed storage, because if there was also an investigative hearing into the concessioning of 22 of our federal silos. How do you how do you sell off, privatize your silos to who?
You have to break it down. What is it? Is that federal silos?
Yes, so these are our national grain storage facilities create silos to prevent the famine.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to create storages. So Nigeria has storages, 33, and 22 are being sold away. Thanks to the National Assembly again for intervening by stopping it, buy them off. Who is trying to take them off? So bad decisions like that are part of the problems that we need to sit down. Let us stop post-harvest losses. Let us increase farm security. 73% of the areas that have been attacked in this country are farming areas. How do you score an A in farm insecurity and expect not to have food insecurity?
Okay. So we need to focus on that as opposed to focusing on GMOs.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Because GMs will not solve the farm insecurity, by the way.
Yeah. But let me understand this. GMOs is just with crops, right? Is there any way they multiply animals too with GMOs? Do they put it in the water and fishes are multiplied? Or it's just with crops?
I don't know if you came across the viral featherless chicken, the video.
No, I didn't. I didn't.
Okay, maybe if you give me your phone number, I'll share it with you after.
Okay.
How a certain farmer in, I think in the UK, had produced featherless chickens without feathers.
Wow.
And he said in that video that they were mainly produced for Nigeria, for the Nigerian market. So when you're buying frozen food, you don't know where those chickens are from. What do you think you're eating? So actually, yes, they are genetically modified animals.
As well, the frozen foods. Okay, so now let's talk about how the victims, which the people, how can we minimize exposure to GMOs in diets?
But one, grow your food as much as you can. And that's why we also commend the First Lady, Her Excellency Oluremi Tinubu, for her initiative of every home a garden. Everyone should have a home garden. You can actually I have a friend who grows yams in bags in his backyard. You have some small vegetables, your pepper, tomatoes, all those little things.
Yeah.
And start growing. Just start growing something. We shouldn't just start growing something. And also, invest in farming. You already have, like I spoke at Cross River State recently. I said to them, you have a house in the village, you have a house in the city. You don't need to build another one. Take that money, go and buy land and start farming. If everyone returns to farm, if everyone, when the president came and said everyone should go to farming, we all laughed. But that's our reality. If we don't grow our own food, how will you know what you're eating? That means you're fully dependent on what the market gives to you.
Mm.
So grow our food, increase the consciousness of GMOs,
Mm-hmm.
let people know what it is and
Okay.
reject it. And lend your voice. I'm speaking to Nigerians now. Lend your voice to the anti-GMO
Yeah.
campaign in Africa.
Yeah.
You
So.
see posts on it, you contribute to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So are there other ways? Because I know someone that when she's cooking any food she buys from the market, she boils it, pours the water out, boil it again and again. She says she's trying to get rid of some chemicals. So are there other ways to minimize it other than farming at home? Are there ways that you purchase these things from the market and you're sure that the effect of whatever the GMOs may have had on it can be gotten off, taken off?
You no matter how you boil it, you won't remove the ones that are inside the genes of the plant or
Okay.
you won't remove it. They are there, you know. So
L-
another thing again is this: go for foods that, for instance, in my house, it's a standing order. If you want to buy beans, you must buy the one that is being eaten by weevils or insects, because
Okay, those are
those are
real.
natural compass. They will tell you, you know, you buy beans, it's looking picture perfect. No single insect is eating it. If the
Mm,
insects are not eating it, you stay away from it also.
okay,
So that's my own. This
that's
is
an
my personal
indication.
formula. We don't eat beans in my house that insects are not already eating.
Eaten.
We buy it. You must see that weevils are in it. Because if they stay away from it, or like I have a friend who was doing an experiment. He bought bread once, and for 20 weeks, mold didn't grow on the bread.
20
The
weeks.
bread in 20 weeks,
Wow,
mold didn't grow on the bread. So
that's
we begin
serious.
to ask ourselves questions: what exactly are we eating?
Yeah.
So as much as possible, eat organic.
Okay.
Look for organic markets. Buy food from organic markets. People who don't use pesticides on their food.
Mm, mm. All right then. So, what role do you think doctors and healthcare professionals should play in educating patients about the potential risks of this?
Well, those in the healthcare sector, they need to come out. They need to start coming out with researches, papers, and explaining. There's a documentary I'll share with you where a doctor actually said that, come to the hospital, organ failure everywhere, and it's all from these things. So they need to come out. They need to speak up more. Yes, they need to speak up more.
Okay.
Let people know that what they eat. Like I have, there's a popular cliche. If you don't eat food like medicine, you will eat medicine like food. You know.
Okay.
So if you don't take your time to know what to eat and eat food to be healthy, you're gonna eat medicines like food. So the doctors, the medical practitioners, the food nutritionists, they need to come out and give us all the information. Let the people know
Mm.
that what they eat, you are what you eat. And if you don't eat healthy, you would when we talk about food security, we're not talking about pizza, burger,
Yeah.
and all this unsafe food,
Hello. Good
carbonated
morning.
drinks.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. What's your name? Emmanuel from where? All right. Good morning. Hello. All right, just try to connect with us again. Although we're almost wrapping this up now at this point, it's been insightful. The recent one I even heard is that cow emissions cause is a cause of climate change. I think I heard that narrative is being pushed by, I think I don't know the international organization specifically, but I know they work together. So we hear that the emissions from cow now cause is a contributing factor to climate change. That's the latest one I've heard. And that in a particular country, they are asked to even kill all the cows. That's a movement now that's going. I think in a European country. I stand corrected. Have you heard of that as well, Dr. Shegun?
Yes, I have heard of that, and I think it's laughable,
Mm.
and anybody who takes that report seriously should be, you know, they need to be checked
They need to
because
be checked. Yeah.
look at the private jets that these guys fly around. I mean, the Copa. I saw a video of Copa, the last climate change conference, and In the buffet table, and the part where they were serving beef,
Mm.
you could see all the delegates. They filled the place eating.
Mm.
They were serving beef. Then the place for the vegetarians, there were just like 3 or 4 people there.
Okay.
And at the climate change conference, where they discussed such things as cow fat, but they were
Cow
eating
fat
beef. They were
and the
eating
bread
beef there,
discussing.
and they all flew there on jets, private jets, commercial carriers,
Yeah.
who are emitting thousands of tons of carbon into the atmosphere, to go to a conference to discuss on how the fat of cows
It's
are
causing
affecting
climate
the
change.
climate. Any
All right then.
government who takes such seriously
Should be checked.
should be immediately elected out and checked mentally, and sent to the appropriate medical facilities
Now,
that
how
can
can
really fix such issues. Yeah.
how can the mess of cows cause, because they say it contains a particular is it carbon or something. But now this the responsibility now is heavy on the lawmakers with this with the GMO's adoption. Beyond just setting up committees to investigate, how would you rate the implementation of this, investigative panels so far? How seriously should what would be your expectations of the legislature as regards GMOs?
Yes. So currently the lawmakers are the takeouts from the investigative hearing was to set up a technical committee to review all the submissions made and review the proceedings of the investigative hearing.
Mm.
And of course, we're expecting the lawmakers to, after the review of the submissions, to number one, to restructure, or rather to amend the NBMA 2015 Act that opened Nigeria up to the importation and cultivation, reverse all approved GMO crops until labeling laws can be enforced, ban the introduction of new GMO crops, ban the cultivation of GMO crops, phase out confined field trials for new crops and current crops, burn up all the farms,
Mm.
and then begin developing new policies on how Nigeria can improve her organic regenerative farming systems, set
Mm.
up seed banks that can promote the development or the cultivation of organic seeds, and set up
Mm-hmm.
seed farms where farmers can have access to high yield seeds.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the measures that we expect the Nigerian government to go. It's a
Mm.
long road, but it's better we start it and arrive at the same destination Tanzania have gotten to after a couple of years.
Okay, so now as we wrap it up, what message would you like to convey to Nigerians about GMOs and its potential health risks?
So everyone who eats is a stakeholder in this conversation. If you're concerned about your health, your diet, your family members, because I mean, we have a lot of people currently go to the gyms. A lot of people are trying to lose weight. The food isn't digesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's because GMOs also affect your gut health. A lot of food decompose in the stomach. They don't get digested. They begin to rot in the stomach. They begin to decompose. There's enough documentation and research on that. So, for the sake of your health, the health of your kids, your family members, get involved in researching and speaking against GMOs.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't, you are also going to be affected. And that's the message that we communicated
Trying to
to
push,
our
yeah.
people in power. We told them, no matter how rich you are, you're not going to import your breakfast from countries that don't allow GMOs.
You'd be
You're going to
stunned.
eat in this country. So
Yeah.
if you don't fix GMO, you can't fritter away the future of our country. Nobody can
Mm.
bribe you enough. Nobody can bribe you to kill yourself.
Yeah.
So everybody needs to get involved, including the lawmakers, the judges, the people in the executive arm of government, the
Mm-hmm.
citizens, everybody that ate yesterday, the day before, and is going to eat the next meal. You have to get involved in this and
Mm-hmm.
act immediately ban GMOs in Nigeria, kick it out, and protect ourselves from food capitalists who seek to profit from our
Of
food
health.
systems and our health. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Shegun, thank you so much. Please take care of your cold. I think you have a cold, right?
I
Oh,
don't
really? You
actually.
don't? Oh, okay. Oh, apologies. I thought you were. So thank you very much, Dr. Shegun. Thank you for your time with us on Spotlight. We appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's it on Spotlight. The sports crew will take over at this point. Thank you for listening on the other end of the radio. So far, I learned a lot about GMO.